G'day everyone. Welcome to the Sunny Coast very own podcast called the Referral Wave, Riding the Tide to Success. My name's Tony Cross, and by day I've got a business called Drive Connect, which is a car brokering business based out of the BNI Business Sunrise chapter. But today I'm joined by Jason from Elite Finance. Welcome along, Jason.
Hey Tony, thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. Let's get into it. So tell us a little bit about what you do there at Elite Finance.
Yeah, so Elite Finance, we're a mortgage brokerage, and I hold the residential mortgage broker seat up at BNI Focus, which is based out of Bridgie Springs. So look, we do without being too general, we do all things mortgages and home loans, and a couple of specialties that we like to focus in on, particularly SMSF lending. We're doing a little bit more in the development and investment space at the moment, but yeah, we help our clients all things home loans.
Yeah, right. So, a good referral for you, someone that's looking to buy a home, obviously. But do you do work with people that might want to just get where they're like they currently got a loan with a bank and they want to get it reassessed and make sure they're not paying too much interest, that sort of thing? Do you do that sort of work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big part of the business that we do. Particularly now, we see a significant amount of people that have owned property for a little while, and as most people will be aware that house prices have sort of skyrocketed, from that COVID era and continued to rise after that. So we do see a lot of activity at the moment for the refinancing market, not only looking for a better deal, but potentially looking to access the equity that they already hold within their home, and put that to work. If it's sitting there, it's good to have that equity, but you can do more with that. So there's definitely a lot of activity, not just around the buying and selling of property, but also accessing equity or refinancing for a better deal. And that's continuing to be quite strong. Yeah.
So people might, with their equity, so a lot of people live in good areas, right? And now to go and rebuy or somewhere, they're moving further out. So they might use that equity to renovate their current property if they like where they live, correct?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a big piece of it. So, and those renovations can vary from, cosmetic carpets, flooring, painting to, full-blown second story renovations on a property. It doesn't matter where you look, but, specifically in South East Queensland, they almost call it the Golden Triangle from, the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast into Toowoomba, and obviously with Brisbane in the middle there, there's a big portion of people that have owned their property for, let's say 5 to 10 years that have got, potentially a couple of $100,000 of equity that they can look to access, depending on what they want to do with it. But yeah, there's a lot of that activity around, as well as, that could be a new investment purchase, or, as we mentioned, sort of renovations. It could be solar, it could be, you name it. There's the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and there's a few good investment options around at the moment too. So, good idea for people listening to organise a one-to-one with you and get their heads around that as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, look, why did you join? How did you come about joining BNI?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I actually, before I came to BNI, or the first sort of meeting, I actually didn't really know a lot about BNI. Obviously, I was familiar with networking in general, and had done a lot of that on sort of my own back, just reaching out to different people. But it was actually my previous business partner. He was based in Sydney, and he spoke to a few different brokers that are like, what, if you can get access to BNI, then that's just absolutely worth it. So I kind of said, what is BNI? And it sort of started with the old Google search, and it was sort of lucky. I mean, the broker seat is one of the first ones to go in a lot of chapters, so it's not the easiest one to get hold of. But fortunately enough, BNI Focus was in the process of looking to launch, so I kind of got in on the ground level, and was able to come along for a meeting and see what it was all about. And the rest is history. Here we are, 2 years later.
2 years later, and the president of that very chapter as well. And
Yeah, yeah.
so you dove right into the deep end, and yeah, great little chapter, up to about 20 odd members now, I believe. So really humming
Yeah.
along, and a couple of more seats to fill. But you've got a really good core group up there now, so they're really kicking along. Can you tell us a little bit about how you use your networking at BNI to enhance, to enhance your business and getting your networking done?
Yeah, and look, I think it's one of those things when you first join BNI, it's the low-hanging fruits, the people in the room. Yeah, it's what opportunities are immediately around, and I know you're a big supporter of the team becomes your sales team, and it can grow from there. So I think in the early days it was really okay. Who's here? Is there people within my spheres that I can leverage from a referral standpoint? But I mean, it quickly grows from there to okay, there's a whole bunch of trades here that I can access. There's, we've got a removalist that I can access. I've always got people that are looking to buy and sell. Is there opportunities for that? But and as that progresses, you start meeting people that are connections of those connections, and I think that's where the real success has come for me. It's some of the connections I've made not just the people in the room, but it's that second tier or third tier, and they become ongoing, relationships, and I think that's a massive part of it. I mean, I've written deals for a couple of times for visitors that have just visited in that day. So yes, I've got referrals, and I've got an awesome core group, as you mentioned, in the room that are sort of helping us grow, and we can bounce off each other, and you build that trust. But it's also those others coming through the room. We've done 2 or 3 deals in the last year or so, and some of that's on the back of just giving you a weekly presentation. You've got that you never know who's sitting in that room. Something that you talk about resonates with them, and then next thing you know, the phone rings the next day, and there's a deal sitting on your desk. So yeah, that's sort of how it's gone for us, which has
Yeah,
been
you bring up a
amazing.
great point there, and and we've had this discussion before. But people, I think, get hung up about sometimes wanting to bring visitors, thinking they got to bring someone that wants to join or whatever. But
Mm,
fundamentally, and first off, you're bringing someone along that just to introduce them to the group and what everyone does. I've seen that
absolutely.
in our chapter as well. Bring along a visitor, and he's used like 4 or 5 people in the room, and he never joined BNI. So yeah, no, that's an excellent point. Now listen. How have you used BNI to solve any problems or any sort of strategies, things that you've had in your business?
Yeah, I think I mean it becomes a bit of a think tank, yeah. You don't know what you don't know. So, as we all know in business, and particularly if you're starting out or you're a smaller business, it can be a bit of a lonely place sometimes. And you're always going to come up with challenges and problems, in any business that you're working with. But it'd be pretty rare that if you looked around the chapter and everybody in that group that they haven't come up against something similar, or so it's not only just directly using people's services. We're big on, really building I suppose, a community base within our chapter. So, we can pinch hit off each other. We can look to solve problems. Hey, we've got a couple of young guys in maybe newer to business that are looking to expand, and they don't really know how. What's the right time, or when have people brought on new staff or things like that? So it's probably those intangibles that you don't usually see. They don't show up in the stats, but those sorts of things have been great. I mean, even in my young fella's soccer team, we've got a WhatsApp group, and there's always people in there. Hey, does anybody know this? And you quickly become that go-to person. It's almost like you're a directory for, surely Jace will have somebody that can do this. But the good thing is, you trust the people that you can put that onto. So, I mean, it's one of those things. If you talk to, and we encourage our chapter to speak to not just within our chapter, but
Yep.
there's over 200 people on the coast that are actively involved in this. So that really is a really powerful tool. So it's not just you and your chapter; it's the broader network that you can access. So there's always somebody,
Yeah.
everything. There's something for everybody out there. So the more people you talk to, the more one-to-ones you have, not only within your chapter, but outside of that. And that goes for even people within your industry. I have fantastic chats with other brokers in other chapters. I mean, even yesterday at our meeting, we stayed behind and probably spoke for an hour about the different challenges and the things that we go through doing the same job. So it's not about competition. It's about, okay, well, what are you seeing and how can we work together? I know there's different chapters on the coast too. They got WhatsApp groups where they're sharing business within the same industry. So, that's probably the biggest thing for us is there's so many, you can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, there's been two standouts for me up in your chapter, which I'm a DC for, so I'm obviously up there a little bit. But there was a young person that has got a successful young business up there the other day, And he stood up and asked the group about employing someone. He was nearly at that point of doing that. And all these, people like, call this person, ring this person, sort of, it was bloody
Mm,
fantastic. So
mm.
imagine if you are, and when I say young, like he's probably in his 30s, I would imagine, but young at business. But how good was it for him to be in that room and A, feel comfortable enough, and then B, get the support and everything he needed out of
Mm.
that group? Like, what I mean, that's his membership right there and then. Not that he's in it to get his money back, but you know what I mean? Like, what a
Yeah,
fantastic opportunity. It was great.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, good. Hey, when it comes to your success in BNI, is there one standout story you can tell us about?
Look, I think it's probably it's a funny one. I mean, as you mentioned, we're a sort of younger chapter. We only launched last year. We were really trying to find our identity and what we were doing. So one of those things is, I mean, I was asked to step into the president role, moving into year two, which is always an interesting time. You've got, people coming and going, and we're still trying to really get into that groove. So I maybe a little left field, but I'd encourage anybody to, if you have the opportunity to step into leadership roles, it's a really good opportunity, whether that be president, VP, secretary, treasurer. You know, Stepping into those roles, I think forces you to sort of dive into that accountability piece, which we might talk about anyway, and get the most out of it. But to sort of rehash on a point I mentioned before, some of these connections I've made are second and third tier, referral or connections or networks that I've made have been absolutely gold for me, and they've transformed, parts of our business. There's probably avenues we wouldn't have actually gone down, or niches that we wouldn't have been able to target, and now they're becoming, core parts of our business that we're going to target. We can actually build a business around. So, yeah, the more you dive into it, and the better the outcomes are going to be.
Yeah. You're 100% right. Now, following on from that, my next question is, like, given your BNI journey to date, what sort of advice would you give someone new listening to this? Now, I know you sort of touched on that already about getting involved, but have you got anything else you can add to that?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's always an interesting time, particularly when somebody's new to BNI and trying to figure out how it works. I mean, it's obviously very structured, and we follow the agendas, and there's a reason why we follow that, and there's obviously the core values and code of ethics and all those things that come with that. So I think it's taking a little bit of initiative to reach out beyond just your group and your chapter. I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice. I mean, we've seen a lot of success reaching out beyond that. And we sort of rehash on it a little bit. It's not just here on the coast, it's not just your chapter, it's Australia wide, but it's also global. We've had a couple of international visitors. We had one yesterday from other chapters. So, we've had Berlin, Cape Town, Vancouver. Depending on what your industry is, there really is endless opportunity out there. So, you know, leverage that, lean into it, and see, get out there and talk to people, because you just never know what's gonna come of it.
Yeah, no, great advice. Well said. And you're doing a fantastic job as the president there and really encompassing those values. And yeah, it's kicking along really well. Congratulations. So, what's next for your business? Let's get back on that. Tell us what's going through.
Yeah, look, I sort of mentioned it before. There's a couple of things. I suppose for us, we'll keep doing the bread and butter, the everyday, mortgage lending that we do. But we do want to, so I suppose, hyper focus on some of those areas we think we can do really well. Our chapter hears me talk about it all the time. I think there's a lot of activity in the self-managed super fund space that's gaining a lot of traction. We're seeing a lot of activity there, and I think we do that really, really well. We've got a lot of knowledge in that space, or if we don't have the knowledge, we've got the connections that can, get the right advice there. So that's something that we definitely want to kick along. As well as doing some more of this sort of investment development lending that we're playing in. And we're not talking big stuff. We're not talking building 100 units on Main Beach at the Gold Coast, but simple duplex sort of builds and things like that. That there's some real opportunity for people to get in on some really good investments, and we really want to continue, maybe driving that sort of activity, and as well as not taking the foot off the gas on the usual bread and butter.
Yeah, there's some good teasers there for people to get organised and have a one-to-one with you. Definitely a conversation worth having. Hey, look, I always finish with what's your one core value that resonates with you with a BNI core value?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's the low hanging fruit, the giver's gain. I think that's important when people come into a chapter. Sometimes they think that you rock up, you come to the meetings, and then all of a sudden there's this tap of referrals, and you never have to look for business again. That's not the reality. It is really about getting involved, and the more you can contribute to the group, the more that comes back tenfold. But the one I suppose for me is probably accountability. That's been huge for us. And I think there's twofold to that. There's the personal accountability. The more you buy into it and do the things that you're supposed to be doing, if everybody in the chapter is doing that, that's when the magic really happens. Yeah. And I mean, you've seen what we've done. We probably weren't exactly where we wanted to be at the start of the year, from a results perspective. And the way we've turned that around is to really get people to buy into the accountability piece. And that doesn't need to be anything wild and crazy. That's simply showing up for your other members. We've all been there where it's like, oh, today I don't really feel like going, or this might not be, I've got a lot on my plate. But if you turn up, it's amazing how things can turn around. And we hear it all the time from members, saying that, I didn't really want to come today, but I'm really glad I did, because, that conversation I had, or just connecting with other people, that's really turned things around. So, it starts with the little things, yeah, the power of one. You do the little things right, and you own your own accountability, then the whole chapter and you benefit. So, that's been a massive focus for us. And I think that's probably the one that resonates with me at the moment the most.
Well said. No wonder you've got a chapter on the move, mate. You're leading by example from the front. Congratulations. Look, tell us how we can get hold of you. Where's got your website, some socials, that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I mean, we can reach out. Elite Finance Professionals is our business. I'm based here on the Sunshine Coast. We've got brokers in Brisbane. We've also got a broker in Sydney, and a couple of support staff. If not, you can always look me up on the app, obviously, or send me an email, text message, phone call, whatever your preferred method is. We will accommodate. So yeah, if anybody wants to have a chat, or even just a general one-to-one, or anything, whether it's finance related or just in general, more than happy to touch base.
And if you're in another chapter on the Sunshine Coast, get out and visit other chapters and make the first one focus. Bridging Golf Club, lunchtime, great spot, good food. So yeah, well done. All right, Josh, Jay, sorry, it's been fantastic having you on. It's been really good. I've wanted to do this podcast for a while, and I'm really glad that you came on, mate. Doing a great job up there, and thanks very much for giving some of your insights, not only being new in BNI, but being a new leader in BNI too. So it's been, I'm sure, it'll be helpful for a lot of people. Thanks very much.